Hello techies, I'm Divya here. On behalf of CyberBrainer, don't you think the world of tech is evolving faster than ever? Now is the perfect time to dive in and build the skills that will take you places. With CyberBrainer, we are putting you in the driver's seat of your own future. We at CyberBrainer don't just teach your interest. We believe that knowledge is power, but it's applied knowledge that truly sets you apart. Whether you're diving into data science, mastering artificial intelligence, or exploring the world of cybersecurity, our courses are designed to give you the skills that matter. So let's jump into the session and make the future yours today. Thank you.
In the last class, we were discussing about the journey builder, and then we showed different types of journey that we have, and also we showed the anti-sources. We saw the data extension as an anti-source. How we can use a data extension, how we can schedule the journey, like we saw three options. The only ones are editing and then automation. And then we talked about the Salesforce data, that how we can use the Salesforce data as a resource to pull the data from this connected Salesforce org into marketing journey. And then we can use that data on any event. Basically, whenever it is updated or updated, you can pull that report from Salesforce to marketing journey. Now we will discuss about the event and resource. Event means any action, any transaction, or anything which is approved. That is going to be event. We have two different types, basically two different categories of events. One is the contact data, another is the database data. Now the contact data. Let's go ahead with the contact data and then we will understand the database data. Contact data basically is scheduled for the retirement. But just to understand, let's see how it works. Contact data means that whenever there is a change in contact, let's say if you want to push the contact reports into marketing journey, then we can do that. We have two different ways. One is that either we can kick off the journey through the automation or the input. I will show you that. Let's select the data extension, let's say Amazon customers only, and we will click on the next button. And here, like if you want to filter the reports, we can do that. But for now, I am opening the filter and I am going to click on the next. Now here, it asks that how do you want to schedule the service? We have two options. Either we can schedule as a recurring, that would be at this point of time. The journey will start and then it will resurface. This is the same thing that we can also do via the schedule option in the data extension. We already have a replacement, we already have an alternative. This thing, it says that either you can schedule this via automation or the API. We also saw that in the data extension as an entry source. We also have this option to kick off the journey using the automation. This also has been replaced. And another option that it provides is the API, that we can kick off the journey using the API. We have two different ways. API schedule and API automation, and then the recurring schedule. All these things have been replaced by the different entry sources and the journey data extension entry source. Let's do one thing. Let's click on the open this option and then click on and it's open. Now, what we are going to do is that we are going to kick off this journey using automation. If you remember that when we were discussing about automation, there was one activity called the fair event activity. Using the fair event activity, we are going to kick off the journey. Whenever we configure the entry source as an event as contact data entry, then what we are going to do, we have two options. How we can schedule the journey. Either we can have a reporting basis API or the automation. If we choose the automation one, then we have to use the fair event activities in automation to kick off the journey. Let's do one thing. Let's go through automation. Let's go to this automation. When we were choosing automation as a schedule option in case of data extension, then what was happening? That the marketing itself automatically adds this activity in the automation, right? But now, this time, nothing is going to happen like that. We have to manually add this activity called fair event to start the journey. In order to pick up the journey, let's activate it first. And in order to activate it, we have to do some credit visits. We still have to have one activity on the canvas. And then we have to select the contact entry mode. And then that changes, and then we are going to evaluate, and then we will activate this. Now the journey is activated and we can accept the reports. Right now, if you will see, there will be zero reports as we have not started the journey, as we have picked up the journey with. Now what we are going to do? We are going to go to automation, click and choose button. And then here we are going to select a data extension which is configured in the journey. That is Amazon questions. We are going to use the profile and the Amazon question marks. I am going to click on done. And then save. Now what we need to do? We need to execute this activity that it can pick up the journey. Click on the button and select this activity. Click on the button and then run now. What will happen now? That it will kick off the journey. It says Amazon customers completed the fairing event. Now the activity has been executed successfully. Now the next step that we need to do is that we need to run this journey, and we can see. As we can see, we have four reports. All the reports from the great extension has entered into the journey. This is how we can do. We can configure the quantitative entry and we can push the reports from the great extension into journey. Now let's get a new journey. And then we are going to discuss about another event that is called JPress again. You must have seen that whenever we register or sign up for any company and we provide them our date of birth, right? For example, let's say Amazon or maybe Miltra or maybe Lifestyle or any shopping brand or any other brand. On our birthday, they send us an email or they send us an SMS that on your birthday we are giving you 50% off. And maybe you can enjoy your meal or something like that. Or if it is from Amazon, let's say we are giving you a special 20% off on selected products. You must have seen that based on a date. We receive the email communication, we receive SMS messages, How do we do that? Let's take a look at it. What are the things that we require? First of all, we require one field where we are going to store the date of birth, and based on that, we are going to offer to the customer. You can see all these things. These are called the attribute group site. We have already seen attribute group sharing content will arrive. The date field that we can select from the attribute group and not from any data extension. Let's say I had created this attribute group called birthday test. And here we have field called dobe. This is my attribute group, and in the attribute group I have one data extension. In the data extension I have a field called dobe, and I'm using this field because I have stored the value. Now what will happen? That it will basically daily check for all the reports for all the customers whose birthday is today. And if their birthday is today, all those contacts, all those reports will enter the journey and they will receive the SMS or the email communication. Every day, it will check for all the customers who are eligible for the entry in the journey today, and then they will receive the communication. Apart from that, you can have 900 news pieces, like you can send birthday emails, anniversary emails, or maybe let's say if you want to send something monthly. Here we have 3 area and few more yearly, monthly and run ones. If you only want to run ones that based on the date, we just want to send one notification only. The monthly use this is going to be, let's say we have one newsletter, or maybe let's say we have a monthly subscription package, let's say for Netflix. We have a monthly package. What do we need to do? They have this monthly expiration date, and before one day prior to the expiration date, we need to send them the email communication, and it will be monthly. Every month, it will check for the customer that the expiration date and it will send the communication. Here we need to, first of all, we need to select the feed, and then we need to select the area of the monthly or run ones. And then we need to select that when we want the customer to enter the journey. When the date occurs, or we can also see that before one day or before let's say 2 days. Generally what companies does is that, let's say if I talk about lifestyle, right? What they do that I think 1 day prior, let's say 1 week prior, they start sending you the email and miss messages. It's your budget week and we have got some special workers for you. You can have all these offers. Let's say we are saying, is that 1 day, 7 days before due. Marketing card will calculate the state that, let's say, 27th, let's say, is my birthday, right? 7 day prior, it means it is today's day. I will enter the journey today and send out this email. And then we have like, whenever the date and time occurs, then only the contact will enter, right? Here we can tell you that the time is what time the contact should enter and the time zone that it should consider while calculating while it does it. On the next button, I'm going to filter SF now and we cover some. Now what will happen whenever in a dobe, let's say dobe could be, let's say 1st of July 1992, let's say, right? But this date will never occur in the future, right? Because this is the district in the past. Marketing does not consider that year because it is a year frequency. It is a year. It is like it only considers the date and day and month. based on a day and month, because that is something which is going to repeat every year. Year is not going to repeat every year, right? It is going to be considered day and month whenever it makes any contact entering the journey. Anybody has any doubt in this? We'll ask you once we get the practice. We have already discussed all the things that we have. We are left with the cloud pages. There is an issue going on. I'll look into it for a bit and we'll discuss it tomorrow. Now let's talk about the activities that we have. We have different categories of activities. We have messaging, advertising, flow control, customer updates, sales and service. These are the different categories of activities. We are going to discuss each and every one by one. Let's discuss about the messaging activities first. We have SMS, we can send the SMS out. What do we need to do? We saw that if you want to send the SMS from the journey builder, then we have to create the SMS in the content builder. If we have created SMS in the content builder, then we have to send the message from the configuration builder. Let's say a time transaction. This is the SMS process that I want to send. And the next step would be the message configuration. Here we basically need to set the shortcode. We don't have the shortcode configured in this account. We won't be able to push it. But then we have the new options and we will pass out. Next one we have is the email activity, that if you want to send an email, then you can use this activity. When you click on this, we can click on the select message. What are the different things that we require to send the email message, the email communication? We need email message. First of all, if you want to deliver it, we need the form name and form info. We need the list of recipients and some other conversations as well. First of all, in this tab number 1, it's in the message definition. Email message. Let's go to the folders. Let's say text message. And the next step is the message configuration. Here we can figure the semi-classification subject that is pre-populated and the standard things. And in the delivery options, we can select our rural population list and send throttling if you want to try the clips or not. If you want to capture this email, send locate extension or not, and these kind of things. Next, we have advanced option. The way we send the normal email from the email server, we have to configure this in the same way. And what will happen? That whenever the contact will reach to this activity, this contact will receive this email message. Next, we have the WhatsApp activity. We can send the WhatsApp. Now let's talk about the flow control. And in the flow control, the most important activity, that is being split. We'll talk about all these. Let's talk about first the decision split. What is a decision split? The name says this activity will split the concepts based on the decision, based on the criteria that we have defined. How we can define the criteria? We will see that. Let's say we have a requirement. What we need to do? Let's say we have a payment on the journey and all the contacts. All the contacts have not made a payment yet. First, what will happen? They will enter into my journey. Once they enter into the journey, we are going to send them the first payment email. That your payment is true and we have not made a payment yet. Please make a payment before the journey. Let's say out of 100 subscribers, out of 100 contacts, let's say 30% of the contacts have made the payment after the first evening. Now what we need to do, that we need to now check that all have made the payment. That we do not send them the email again. And for all those who have not made a payment yet, we are going to send them another email. That the full of email or the payment remainder email. Here we are going to use the decision split. The decision split, we need to define the criteria. We need to check whether the payment has been made or not. If the payment is made, then what we need to do? If the payment is made, it means yes. Then we are not going to do anything. If the payment is not made, then we are going to send them the email permission. Let's configure this first of all. Here we can choose the data from either from the contact data or the journey data. Let's understand what is the contact data and the journey data first. And then we will go ahead with the decision split. Contact data is nothing, but it is made up of attributes and the populations. What do we mean by that? Contact data, we can see all the attributes, groups, and the populations. And in the attributes and populations, what we will see? We will see the data extension. At the end of the day, the data is stored in the data extension. In journey data, we will consider only the data extensions. And data extensions would be associated in either the attribute groups or the populations. Mark Tinker says that whatever your attribute groups and populations and all the data extensions that are associated with the attribute groups and populations, they will be classified as the contact data. And what is the journey data? Journey data is basically your entry data source. Let's look at some of these first. I'm going to select the data extension here. Well, we should do this as the new one. Whatever data extension that I have selected in my entry source, that will be considered as my journey data. All those reports that are present in the data extension in the entry source, those reports like that data will be considered as my journey data. And all the data, all the reports that are there in the data extension which are associated with the attribute group and the population, that data will be digitized as the contact data. Now if I click on the journey data, I can see all the fields that I can see over here. Now you understood the difference between the journey data and the contact data. But the thing is that why do we have two different types of data and what makes them different? We understood the source, that the journey data is a data which is coming from the entry source of the journey. And whereas the contact data is the data which is coming from the attribute groups and the populations. Now, the main difference is the journey data is the extracted data, whereas the contact data is the library data. What do I mean by that is that whenever we activate the journey, what happens? Whenever we activate the journey in the backend, marketing group takes a snapshot of this data. The data that we have in this particular data extension, that is my journey data. Whenever we activate this journey, marketing group will take a snapshot of this data and will save this snapshot. And the values that we have, the reports that we have in our journey, data that will be considered throughout my journey or that will be taken up throughout my journey. Let's understand this with one example. Let's say we have a payment within our journey and we have a data extension. We have a data extension, Amazon customers, and here we have a field called payment status. In the data extension, we have a field called payment status, and it can have two values, either completed or pending. Either this payment is pending or it is completed. Now, all those customers who have this status is pending, they will enter into journey, they will receive this email. And now what we need to do after, let's say one day after sending the email, we need to check. After one day, we need to check whether they have made the payment or not. Now what we are going to do? We are going to go to the state extension Amazon customers and see the value for different customers. This is the data extension and this is my data extension. Let me add a field over here. Let's add a field over here. Let's fill some of the values. Let's say I'll say I have 4 records in my data extension. And I can see that for some of the status is pending and for some of the records the payment status is completed. Now all those customers who have this status pending, they will enter into journey and they will receive this email. After waiting for one day, they will receive this activity called decision statement. Here we need to basically check what is the current status. We are going to consider the current status order, updated status of the payment status field. That what is the value of this payment status field right now. And based on that, we are going to make a decision that whether we need to send the email or not. But what happens, let's say, at the time of the activation, we take a snapshot of this and that data and we save it. And whenever we need to make a decision, we are making a decision based on that snapshot that was taken at the time of the activation. Let's say, after sending the email for this particular customer for a branch, the payment status gets updated to completed. But if we are utilizing the journey data to make a decision, then what will happen? It will not take the value from the data extension. It will not take the latest value of the updated value, but it will take the value from the snapshot. And in the snapshot, the value is still pending. What will happen? That it will check and it will basically read that, or basically it will route the contact to a path that the payment is still pending. But that's not true. What is the resolution? In that case, we need to use the contact data. And at the time of the prompted data, what happens? That whenever a decision is evaluated or whenever a criteria is evaluated, it will directly go to the state extension and it will pick up the latest value of the updated value in the data extension and not the value from the snapshot. As we can see over here, that we have two options in order to define the criteria, journey data and the contact data. Let's say if I'll use the journey data to define the criteria as say payment status is equal to completed. Then what needs to be done? If the payment is completed, then it will basically route this contact to this particular path. In case of the journey data, what will happen at the time of the evaluation? It will take the value from the snapshot. Basically, it will take the value from the snapshot of the payment status field. And if we configure the criteria, we will define the criteria using the content data. Then it will pick up the value from the data extension itself at the time of the evaluation. That is the difference. Now we'll see this thing in action, that whether it is working or not. Let me cancel the changes. Now what we're going to do? I'm going to change this to units. Here I'm going to apply the filter criteria that only those contacts. And here we can only define the filtered criteria using the content data. We cannot choose the journey data. What I'm saying is that let's say I want to say that where payment status equals to pending, only those contacts should enter into the journey data. This is the data extension that I'm choosing. 4 contacts will enter into the journey for the evaluation. And based on the filter criteria, only 2 contacts will enter into the journey. 2 contacts will be accepted. Now, After that, what is going to happen is that they are going to wait for 2 minutes. And once the wait period is over, they will reach decision, spread activity. First of all, what I'm going to do, I'm going to configure the criteria using the journey data. Let's look at the journey data. And here payment status should be equals to from created. Here is one done. If let me change payment from created. Let me rename this path. Let me add one more path. And let me define the third area now. Payment status is equals to payment from done, payment from summary from created. Now what will happen? In 2 minutes, what we are going to do? We are going to go to the data extension and change the value of the pending to compute for one of the contacts. Now we have already seen and we already know that the journey data basically is a data from which is coming from the journey data extension. And Marketing Cloud takes a snapshot of the journey data, and that snapshot is going to be considered at the time of the evaluation. Even if you make some changes in the data extension, these changes will not be considered. In order to prove that what we are going to do within the 2 minutes, we are going to change something over here. And then we will see at the time of the decision evaluation whether the value will be taken from the data extension or by snapshot that was taken. If the payment is computed, the company will be routed to this path. If the payment is still pending, they will be routed to this path. And let's say if we have some type because of some issue, maybe this telling is incorrect or maybe the value is non-right or blank. It could be an issue. In case of an issue, the contact will be routed to the remainder branch. Now let's save the changes. Let me configure the email. Click on validate and then we will activate the journey. Now we have to do this run once, it will automatically run. We don't need to kick off the journey from our side. When the content will reach to this activity, then what we're going to do? We are going to change the value in the data extension. The context has been accepted. Now what we are going to do is we are going to go to Content and Builder and change the changes of this content. But since we have taken that data, it is going to take this value and all these contacts will be routed to the pending branch. These contacts will not be routed to the full faded branch. They will be routed to the pending branch only, as the value will be taken from the snapshot. Let's wait for 2 minutes and then we will see. These two contacts, these two decisions are split, and then, based on the evaluation, they were routed to the pending branch. Even though we had made the change in the data extension, we have changed the status to the completed for one of the data. Basically, it takes the value from the snapshot, which is the static data, and it remains constant throughout the journey. Now in the next example, we are going to take a look at that. If we are considering the decision or we are considering the criteria, if you look at the contact data, what happens? Let me stop this version. And let me create a new version. We will talk about the version of the thing in detail. For now, I'm just doing it that we can make it faster. I'm going to click on the decision aspect now. And then here, instead of generating, I'm going to choose the contact data. Everything will remain the same. It is just that we are going to configure the decision aspect with the contact data. Now, let's do that. Click on Edit, and in itself we will choose the contact data. And also we will select model, address and customers. And here we have this payment status. This is the contact data. And let's choose the contact data. And payments is the first two. And then click on Done and click on Submit. We have configured the decision aspect with the contact data. Now what will happen? There will be contact on the list activity first of all, and then we will make some changes. Let me revert the changes first, and I will make this as pending. These two contacts will reach to the rate activity. First of all, these two pending reports, and then there will be the decision aspect. And then what will happen? Based on the update design in the latest version, the decision will be what we did. Let me see the changes and then people validate. This is the journey that we did once. Once the contact. We reach to the rate activity, then we will change the rate extension. Let's wait for a few seconds. Now the quantity that reached the rate activity. Let's go ahead and make the changes. For the grads, I'm going to change the strength. Now the quantity has not reached the decision aspect activity yet. What will happen when they will reach this activity? The decision will be evaluated and this quantity will go down this path and another record that is done will be routed to this payment pending. That should be added. In case of journey data, we cannot do that. Now if we talk about the use cases, if you have a requirement where we need the updated data, let's say memory demanded, then we will keep going ahead with the contact data. Whereas if you have a requirement, you want the data to be exactly the same as when it entered the journey. For example, that we are taking the customer's preference. We are taking the customer's preference and then the customer cannot change the preference throughout the journey. We are going to change the communication based on the customer's preference. Even if they change, we are going to consider the preference that was there at the time of the content. Now, what has happened is that the only contact has been routed to the computer and the only contact has been routed to the payment pending. As we anticipated, this is exactly the same. There are a few more differences. Let's talk about fees. Journey data comes from the end users of the journey, and the quality data comes from the activity groups in the population that are linked to the contact model. Journey data basically means as it is throughout the journey, and basically Marketing Cloud takes a snapshot of the journey data and the data comes from that snapshot. Whereas the content is a live data and at the time of the evaluation, the content data is detected from the data extension itself. Journey data plays as the student contact data, whatever the data that was there at the time of the entry. It will keep the same status. Keep the same status, whereas the content data is an updated data. Journey data is a point-in-time data that now changes, and content data is a most up-to-date value. Journey data lives in the system, and the memory is faster. Lead is not going to change. It is obviously going to be faster that we are just going to take the value from the snapshot. Whereas the content data system has to go all the way to the data extension and pick up the value from there. Content data is a bit slower to access the journey data. If there's no doubt, let's see. Let me put it in my version. Next activity that we will discuss about is the engagement split. What is the engagement split? We are going to split the context based on the engagement made by the customers with the email communication that we have sent to them. Let's say we are sending one email to them. And now, based on the engagement, whether they have met the engagement or not, whether they have opened the email or not, whether they have clicked on a link in the email or not. Based on that, we are going to make a decision and we are going to send them to a prospective path. Let's say make it one day. Many times we receive this email communication, and what this company did that they send us this email communication, and after some time they evaluate whether we have opened the email. And we have opened the email, which means we are interested. They will send us the similar relevant emails. But if we have not opened the email, they might think that we are not interested and they might send us some generic email. They will not send us any further communication. Let me take one day. I mean, we can take any time, but let's take one day. That after sending the email information to the customers, we are going to wait for one day and then we are going to do this engagement. Here we have three options. First option is the first option. First of all, it's configured the email activity. What is the message? And now that we get the message, we can see that we have one of the open and then delete the number. We need to select the message as which email message that we need to comment. And based on that, we are going to make a decision whether we want to track the opens or clicks or bounces. What will happen if we want to track the options? We can show the Facebook ads with the help of this ad audience. If we have a Facebook channel integrated, that we can send the SMS, or if they have not opened the email, we can show them the Facebook page. Next engagement option that we have is a clip. You want to track the clip that if they have clicked on this button, it means they are interested in purchasing the A, C or purchasing the item that we have listed in the email communication. If they have clicked, it means they are interested. And we can say that have you purchased the A, C or not by now? Or how did you like it if you have purchased something like that? And if they have not clicked on any other link, let's say they have not clicked on the buy now link, then we might send them another email communication asking that, are you facing an issue? Or if you have any query, then you can reach out to us or something like that. Another option that we have is the bounce one. In case of bounce, let's say the email is not particular to the recipient. In case, what can happen? Like what we can do is if the email is bounced, then there could be a possibility that the email address is not correct. Or maybe there is some issue at the server side, or maybe like the recipient side. We need to communicate this to the customer. We can send them the SMS that if we are not able to, we can send them the SMS communication. These are the things that we can do with the engagement. Engagement helps us to spread the context based on the engagement that they have made with the previous message or the message that we have sent with them. Here we have 3 options to monitor. Either we can track the open or click on bounce. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel.